Hi everybody. So what am I doing today? Everyone always asks and they want to know what I'm up to. So today I am picking wild black raspberries. Ooh, aren't they looking good? It's one of my favorite summer treats to find, especially since you can find them along almost every path you come across. So today you can see that I'm foraging in the woods. I have the wild black raspberries. So what's the difference between a blackberry and a black raspberry? Well, there's a lot of differences really, but the main difference is the fruit itself. The black raspberry looks more like a raspberry. When you pull it, and I'll show you what this means right here. When you pull it off the stem, the wild black raspberry leaves a hole. A blackberry, when you pull it, will actually come off with the stem as a whole. Now, a couple of things that you need to know when you're foraging, especially for the wild fruits like this, and I call them a couple of the rules for foraging. First, you don't take everything from the woods because, well, there's lots of wildlife out here that would like to eat too. Second thing is don't trample the area, especially if you know that others are in it. I've already experienced here today that there has been quite a bit of area that's been trampled down by other foragers who've come out and just knocked down the growth. But what happens is that it kills the plants and then they don't come back. So one of my favorite blackberry patches has actually diminished down to about a quarter the size, if not smaller than that, because people have come in and completely smashed the blackberry stems, and they're not coming back, or they don't come back as fast as they're growing. Now here it's pretty good. This one has been a really good patch to pick in the past. The biggest difference here that I'm seeing this year is that it's overgrown with grape leaves. So, which is a good and bad thing. I'm actually going to take the opportunity to forage some grape leaves as well today so that I can make some stuffed grape leaves. I thought that'd be kind of fun. So I will take advantage of a bad or a good situation. Now, one of the things I look for in a field is when you're walking in is to make sure you're stepping also in a very safe location. So there's no holes, there's no pits, there's no water, and most importantly, I'm not stepping into poison ivy. Now, I'm not really allergic to poison ivy. I don't tend to react like many people do, but I still don't want to chance it and rub it all over myself. So when I step in, I know what I'm walking into. I know what to avoid. And mostly, I wear pants. So my husband will be like, yay. So what's the best way to pick the wild berries? As I said, the black raspberries will come free from the stem. So when I'm pulling them, I'm just gently using my thumb and I roll it off, and you will see that it has an empty cap, and I just go along each of the stems and I pick a handful. Now there's quite a bit that's ripe in here. There's also quite a bit that's not ripe. If they don't come off the stem easily, they're not ripe. If they're not a deeper red or even a black, they're also not ripe. So I'm just carefully removing them. You can see I'm coming down here and getting some more. So far I've probably gotten maybe a quart of black raspberries in about an hour of picking maybe. It's a little thinner than I would like. I was at another location this morning that was much better than this one, so I may go back. So I stepped back to one of the areas because I see there's lots of really, really nice, juicy black raspberries back here. The thing is, when I stepped back, I see this bush, this plant. Now this plant is called cleavers, and I know that if I walk into it, I will come out with thousands of these little balls stuck to my clothes. So they act a lot like Velcro. You can see, if you look real closely, they have teeny tiny little hairs, and they really do. They stick all over. So as much as I want the black raspberries back in this area, I will probably avoid them. I lied a little bit. I decided to step back in an area that still had some of the cleavers to get some of these berries. I just couldn't resist. Well, one of the things I wanted to point out to you is how to avoid poison ivy, because black raspberries and raspberries all have leaves of 3, which if you're a scout or you're a youth that knows this, leaves of 3, let them be. Now, when I'm looking at the raspberries, one of the ways I know that this is not poison is A, it has a berry on there, even though it has leaves of 3. You can see that right there. And they're very similar to what poison ivy looks like, with a couple exceptions. Now, the raspberry plants still have prickers on them, and the poison ivy does not. So I am standing in a whole bunch of poison ivy. Again, I don't react, so I'm not as worried about it, but I wanted to point it out to you. Right here, you can see what poison ivy looks like. Still leaves of 3, but how it differs from the raspberries, besides the plants, fruit, and also the prickers, are the leaves themselves. Poison ivy almost looks like it's got a mitten where it's got a thumb right here. It often has like a red dot in the center, and those leaves are much glossier than the raspberry leaves. You can see they come up over here, and they come up over here. And they come up pretty high, so I will be careful where I am walking and where I'm reaching, because as I said, I don't tend to react to this, but I really don't want to get poison ivy today. Now, one of the things I get asked a lot when I'm out picking, especially when someone who doesn't know me runs across me, is, can you eat that? And with wild black raspberries, yes. I always tell people who are learning about foraging to learn about what you're eating, be able to properly and thoroughly identify what it is that you're eating. But honestly, with a raspberry, a wild raspberry, a blackberry, a boysenberry, a black raspberry, I have not run across a poisonous look-alike yet. So you'll really be very safe in picking and eating them. You have to know when they're ripe, and that might be the only caveat to that, because eating any unripe fruit can cause you to get sick. So I always encourage people to try something like this. In total today, I guess I picked maybe a quart, maybe 2 quarts. It's hard to say really. This is my favorite bowl because it has a handle on it right here. My husband hates that I take the bowl because it's white and, well, it stains. But you can see all the lovely berries I was able to collect. I have one more stop to make today. I'm gonna pick some more and then I'm gonna call it a day. Someone has been out here likely earlier today or maybe yesterday, and they picked quite a bit. So the number of berries in any one cluster is few and far between. So it took a little longer than I normally like. I like it when all the berries are ripe and you get a big cluster that you can collect at one time. There's a couple different areas in here that have different quantities, and clearly they are ripening at different times. So maybe another couple days before another big batch should be ready. So I probably won't come back to here until 2 or 3 more days and see what happens, but considering there is somebody foraging actively here as well, it may not last. So I do encourage you, go out, find some wild black raspberries, pick them and eat them, make them into jelly jam, pies, or just enjoy. If I actually keep these from my kids long enough, I'll end up making some jelly, and maybe I'll post a recipe on that one. But for the most part, the kids clear me out pretty quickly. So who knows? We'll see. All right, enjoy.